So this is Temple Station where we start the walk, but why is it called Temple Station? There's no temple around here. I guess we'll find out during the walk. Wow, look at them chimneys. Have you ever seen chimneys like that anywhere?
Literally we're like a temple, how can I describe this? Where am I?
Here's Temple Station. What we're going to do, we're going to walk through Victoria Embankment Gardens, then cross Temple Place and then walk along Milford Lane, and then we're going to turn right into Middle Temple. We're going to make our way to Fountain Court, cross over Middle Temple Lane, and we'll make our way into Inner Temple Garden. Then from there we leave there, cross over King's Bench Walk, walk along Tudor Street, turn left into Whitefriars Street, right Primrose Hill, then into Hutton Street, and follow us that way. Number 2 Temple Place is Astor House. Looks like a small castle made from Portland stone, and a wonderful weather vane at the top there of a ship. It's best to start this walk at 12 p.m. on a Monday to Friday, when the walk through the Inner Middle Temple and Lincoln Inn and their gardens are open to the public. Temple is not named after a building, but is actually named after a large site which was the English headquarters of the Knights Templar. It is now the site of the Inns of Court for the Middle and Inner Courts. In the year 1291, the Knights Templar work in defending the Christians in the Holy Land came to an end, and soon after Philippe IV of France wanted to get hold of their great wealth. The Knights Templar was a French organisation. This here was only the English headquarters. Philippe IV got others involved, including the Pope, and had the knights arrested, and false accusations were made about them, including worshipping the devil, and they were tortured to confess, enabling Philippe IV to take away the Knights Templars' possessions. Here in England, the young king, Edward II, was the son-in-law of Philippe IV of France and greatly under his influence. And so the Knights Templars site here was taken away from them and was given to St. John's Hospitallers, which is now known as St. John's Ambulance. The St. John's soon afterwards sold the site to the lawyers, and now we have the Inns of Court for lawyers, barristers, solicitors. In past times there was a culture of great drinking and gambling in the Great Hall, and during some renovation work in the 18th century, when they were putting a new floor in the Great Hall, they uncovered the old floor and found hundreds of dice when they would gamble with dice. The large site is now occupied by the Inns of Court, the Middle Temple and the Inner Temple. The Inner Temple is to the east and the Middle Temple to the west. So these Inns of Court are situated right in the middle of the city of Westminster, which is to the west, and the city of London, which is to the east. You can quite easily see the lamb is carrying a cross and flag. The lamb is the sign of the Saviour, the emblem for the middle court. You may have heard of Rumpole of the Bailey, TV series in the 70s and 80s. The writer is John Mortimer, and he was actually a defence lawyer and had offices here. And John Mortimer based his stories on his life experiences. It's well worth a watch. Probably look it up on YouTube or find it somewhere. It's Rumpole of the Bailey. Pegasus, the horse, is the sign of the Inner Temple. The Knights Templar built the round church based on Jerusalem's Holy Sepulchre.
Really detailed document, 26 pages. And then next week,
Middle Temple and Inner Temple and Lincoln's Inn are called inns because in the old days students of the law used to have accommodation here like an inn. But now the buildings are for offices and chambers, for solicitors and lawyers, but not student accommodation. But the students still have to come here to have special dinners when progressing to the bar. That building on the corner there is called Paper Buildings because the original building would have been made out of wood and plaster, but it's now stone and brick. This is the inner temple garden. It's only open 12:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. Monday to Friday. You don't have to escape the city and go to the countryside for peace and quiet. You can just come here to Middle Temple Gardens and escape the traffic and noise. From the old knights' living places of the 12th century, the lawyers, when they came, built offices, chambers, libraries, halls. Well, I think the gardener does a great job here. It seems very academic here. I feel a bit out of place, but it's beautiful. This is called a Judas tree. I don't know why, but maybe Judas hanged himself on such a tree. This is a Himalayan birch, not a silver birch, Himalayan birch. This is fast becoming a gardening program. This is a copy of The Wrestlers, which is in Florence, was made from in the first century, but this is a copy. So this is King's Bench Walk. Now here at number 9, King's Bench Walk, in the year 1888, it was the chambers for a young barrister by the name of Montague Druitt. And in that same year, he was given hardly any cases to work on, and so money was tight, and he drowned himself in the River Thames. And the young barrister Montague Druitt's drowning coincided with the timing of the Jack the Ripper's murders coming to an abrupt stop, just as quickly as they had started. Jack the Ripper has always been thought of as someone who had knowledge of being a surgeon or even a surgeon. And Montague Druitt's father was a surgeon, Dr. Druitt. Having his own private barrister lodgings would give Montague Druitt the chance to hide such things as bloodstained clothing and his tools of the trade. And there was madness in Montague Druitt's family, both for his mother and his grandmother. And I remember reading once that one of them ended up in an asylum. From Hutton Street, turn left into Dorset Rise, and then we would take St Bride's Avenue and look at St Bride's Church. Then make our way from St Bride's Church to Fleet Street, turn left, and then turn right into a small alleyway where it's the Old Cheshire Cheese pub. Make our way through little alleyways to Gough Square, where there's the house of Dr. Johnson. Then, using Pemberton Row and West Harding Street, we come to Fetter Lane, where we would turn right and then left along Cream's buildings, cross over Chancery Lane, through Chichester Rents, turn left at Star Yard, turn right at Carey Street. Then we will make our way into Lincoln's Inn. St Bride's Church, looking like a wedding cake. Now off Fleet Street, along a narrow alleyway, is the entrance to a well-known pub in these parts, the Old Cheshire Cheese. One famous character was the pub's own parrot that could mimic the sound of a popping champagne bottle and had an extensive vocabulary. Even the BBC announced the passing of the parrot on the radio.
Right there, biggest day.
Here, come take a picture under.
So many characters have stepped through this doorway to add their presence to the cheerful atmosphere of the old wonderful public house. Now, protecting the stone step through the doorway there is a iron plate, because apparently this stonework goes back to the Roman times. And here's all the monarchs that have ruled this country during its time. Even Charles III is there. Regulars of this local, at least in the past, called this public house the House. And in this house, Dr. Johnson, with the help of his clerks, wrote that famous book, The Dictionary. Dr. Johnson lived at no fewer than 17 addresses in London. And this is the only house of them all left standing. In Fetter Lane is this statue of John Wilkes, the champion of English freedom. John Wilkes was put in the Tower for writing in his weekly paper North Britain faults of the government. But he was released in 1763 before becoming an MP in 1774. Wilkes had won 3 times the people's vote, but was denied 3 times by the House because of his views. And in 1774, Wilkes was also elected as Lord Mayor of London, obviously a man of the people's choice. Here in Star Yard is a Victorian public lavatory, but it's not in use, it's locked, always locked. I find the best places to, if you're looking for public toilets in London, central London, is the mainline train stations. That's your safest bet. Also in Star Yard is Eden Ravenscroft, robe makers and tailors, established since 1689. I think the long black gowns and the horse hair wigs which the barristers wear in court makes them look very professional and serious, and I'm sure their clients, at the look of them, feel they're getting their money's worth. Here I am in Carey Street. That's the back, the Royal Courts of Justice. And then on this side, past this road, is Lincoln's Inn. If you hear someone in this area say they're in Carey Street, might not mean that they actually are in Carey Street. It possibly means that they are bankrupt. While I'm talking about the Inns of Court, I saw a painting and it was of two farmers having a dispute over the ownership of one cow. One farmer had the cow by the head and was trying to pull the cow towards him, while the other farmer was at the other end pulling the cow's tail towards him, while in the middle sat the lawyer on a parlour stool, and he was milking the cow for all it's worth. That is Sir Thomas More, and it says sometime Lord High Chancellor of England, servant of both God and the King. And when he couldn't put the King first and put the God first, pay the price with his life. And if you hear the term spoil sport in these parts, it's referring to a defendant who turns up in court and in the dock, immediately confesses and says he's guilty, to the disbelief of the law people in the courts, barristers, the judge, solicitors, who see a good payday and a long trial spoilt in just one day. This is Lincoln's Inn Great Hall. It says on the brickwork there 1843, but the original Great Hall was built in the year 1489. This plaque says this hall was built in the 5th year of King Henry VII. This is the library on the end of the Great Hall building, and the Latin inscription up there, if translated into English, that would read, "On behalf of the King and the law and the herd." The property dispute case of Jarndyce versus Jarndyce in Bleak House, written by Charles Dickens, left both parties by the end of the case with no property. All monies used up by expensive lawyers in a court case that went on and on through delay and delay. This is the Gardener's Castle, built by George Gilbert Scott, who also built the Midland Hotel at St Pancras Station and the Albert Memorial. The chapel here in Lincoln's Inn was rebuilt after bombing in the First World War. That says 1223, so there were buildings here from the 13th century. here in Lincoln's Inn. Now under the chapel I'm looking for John Thurlow's grave stone. John Thurlow was Secretary of State in 1650 in the time of Oliver Cromwell, when England was a republic. Found him, John Thurlow, died 1667, number 24A. Now I need to find 24A. Okay, I found him, John Thurlow, Secretary of State, but he was also spy master, working for the parliamentarians. After Charles I's execution, when Charles II regained the throne, you would have thought that John Thurlow would be executed also. But John Thurlow escaped execution because he knew too many secrets about royalists very high up, and so he was left alone.